Nothing like it. I mean, really, when this gets done, it is going to blow your mind how well this is going to look. Now, one of the things we have to do is establish the height of the running master sheet, which is our first sheet. But we also need to actually figure out where the pattern is going to go into this matrix. That's what we call it, this pattern itself, okay?
This I'm not so sure of. How
Well,
do we do this?
you know, this is something that's really important to understand. Remember we talked about the width, which is 20.5, and the repeat, which is 20.5. And you can see that this is actually the same flower here, right, you know, down. What we need to now do is establish where the ceiling line is going to be for things. And I don't want to cut through
that main pattern.
Yeah. So here's a little trick that I have done. First thing I do is I find the biggest element, which we call the key element. And we usually put it right here. And then what I do is usually measure up about an inch or so, and I put a little pencil mark, okay?
Okay.
Now, we're going to use a really interesting tool. We're going to actually use what's called
I love this. A carpenter's square?
Carpenter's square. Now, it's a very simple thing, maybe $5 or $6. This is really a new one. I've had it for about maybe 2 years. This one's 32 years old. It's one of my favorite tools just because it's old.
Working well.
Yeah, you don't throw it away.
No.
But it gives us a couple of things. Number one, it is a perfect right angle, which is going to help us. And what we're going to do is put this little leg along the seam side. Now, do you know how wide a carpenter square is?
2 inches?
2 inches. Now, if we take, and that's where we're going to have our cut line at the ceiling, which is where I'm going to use the knife to trim off the excess. And we already said that we needed to add 2 inches. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Height plus 4.
Oh, that's perfect.
It is.
Yeah.
It works out perfect. So here's a little secret. What we're going to do, take now and put the inside here on this pencil mark, the carpenter square. And we're going to line up the small or the short leg of our carpenter square.
Now, these are always straight, right?
Yeah, they're always straight.
Okay.
Very good. It's called parallelity. The seams are always going to be exactly parallel to each other.
Line it up.
So we line it up. Now, here's the height that we need of the master sheet. It is 9 feet, remember?
Uh-huh.
8
height.
plus 4, 9 feet.
9 feet.
Now, what I'm going to do is take my knife. We have these snap-off blades, and we're just going to cut off the top just really quickly, just come right along the edge, okay? Now, this automatically gives us a couple of things. It gives us the 2 inches above, and it automatically gives us a very squared end. Now, the next thing we're going to do is right off the bat, before we even go down to the other end and trim off the length we need, we're going to flip up the left-hand corner, and we're going to mark it number 1. Why? Because this is the master sheet.
First one.
First sheet, very good. I always put an M for master. So that way I know that this is the sheet we're going to match all the sheets from. This is a straight across match, which means the other half of the image is over here.
Is there a top or a bottom?
This is it. This is the top. We've determined at the top left-hand corner, okay? Now, the reason for that is because when we roll the paper up, when we actually process it and then we're going to book it, that way when you put it in the water tray, the number will be up and we'll be able to unroll it.
Great.
So, let's go on down to the other end, and let me show you a little secret over here. We pull the sheet sort of tight, and the carpenter square is going to keep it nice and level. You can see I've measured out 9 feet over here, and I'm going to line up this carpenter square, and I'm going to show you a little wizard trick. I learned this many years ago. My grandfather taught me. You take this, and you pull back, and it cuts the paper.
It's a paper cutter, too.
It's a paper cutter. So automatically now we have our 2 inches because it's 2 inches there, and because we already built in the 2 inches, we know we have now got our master sheet, and now all the sheets are going to match after that.
Great.
Now we got to pull the wrapper off. Now that wrapper has a couple of things. Now you know what? This is like a duh moment, but you see those? Those are called instructions, okay?
They are.
I know they're about that big.
Yeah, get your magnifying glass.
Read them because it really will tell you that it's pre-pasted, it is strippable, easy to remove, wash, all the things that we need to do. And here's a little secret I like to do. When I remove a label, I save the labels. And the reason why is if there is a problem with material, I have the die lots, and this is my insurance policy. So what I do is I actually stack these up, and I save them. And then now the plastic, I have a trash bag. Here's a little wizard trick. Goes right in there.
Right in there.
So
Perfect.
now,
Okay.
here's what we're going to do. We're going to take now, and I want you to pull
Does this pattern come exactly the same every time? Is it printed out?
Great question. They're just lopped off in lengths, and so the
Okay.
pattern never starts in the same spot.
Oh, it doesn't.
No. So here's what we do. I want you to
All
take
right.
this all the way up, and along this edge right here, we're going to try to match the pattern. So go ahead, slide it up.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at the pattern. Keep going a little higher, and keep going, and stop.
Oh.
Now, you notice, does it match?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do is take a pen, that's over there above the carpenter square. See the pen?
Uh-huh.
And I want you to put a little mark right at the top of the first one, so you know that they match. Yeah, right.
A mark on the new
Yep, right on the
roll?
new. Okay.
Right on the print.
Right on the print, just right there. Now, that is going to be our cut line. Now, here's the trick. You notice how the pattern matches? I want you to pick up this sheet, and I want you to slide it over, and I want you to put that pencil mark or that pen mark right on the cut line. Look. Now, if you notice, okay, and I can point this out to you, you'll notice it's the same pattern, the same little edge. You see how the little thing is right there? See how it is? Same little flirt.
Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect.
So that tells me this is a straight across match. Okay. So now what you do, you take your carpenter square, you line up your little leg, you line it up to the cut mark, and little grandpa trick, you hold always here at the left hand. Go ahead and do this, okay? And what I want you to do is pull nice and grab it here in the middle, right about here, and pull it straight back. Okay, nice and hard. Keep going. Keep going. Perfect. Okay, now take that scrap, throw it in there. Perfect. Down, just hold it down, so it's not going to slide. I come over here, make sure there's nothing underneath. I take my carpenter square, and I cut it to the length we need. And now we have cut our second sheet. Of course, what you need to do is have always a pencil. Now, the pen is not a good thing to actually mark on the back. And here's the reason why. This will bleed up through, the ink would bleed up through the wallpaper. So here's our number 1. So then what would be this one?
2.
2. So we're going to mark it number 2. So we know now 1 to 2, and then the next one we're going to do the same thing. Now here's the little thing we're going to save a little bit of time and energy. We know this is a straight across match. So the next length, instead of going all the way out here and match it, we're just going to bring it right on top of that one, leaving the number 1 out. So we always have the reference in which to mark from and to match from.
Fantastic.
It's that simple, seriously. Now we're going to cut 40 sheets.
Oh boy.
Are you ready?
I guess so.
The whole room. Watch this. Here we go. So I'm going to go ahead, grab this, you pull, and we're going to go right on top of number 2. Okay, we already cut number 1, and we're going to take it so you have to go and match the pattern. Now, I don't know if you can see, but you're not on the match right now.
Yeah, it seems hard to do.
Right.
Oh,
now,
I see.
So you got to take it up. Boom.
Right.
See it there? Now, let's talk a little bit, since you've now figured that out, that it didn't match, because we always got to match here. This, now taking the carpenter square, again, line it up here. Now, you see this extra right here? This is what we call the waist, okay? Now, the waist is what would be coming down on top of our head when we hang wallpaper. Remember, Grandpa says it's easier to deal with wallpaper dry and flat than it's wet and vertical.
Right.
And the reason for that is this is what would be making the paper fall off. So this we call salvage.
Oh,
okay?
like sewing.
Yeah,
Okay.
like sewing. Very good.
Uh-huh.
I like to think of wallpaper as big sewing.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Seams, pattern, match, cut, trim, you know, all those
Right.
things. So again, this is waist. So
Okay.
that I'm going to trim that off. And of course, this third one, what are you going to mark it? Number?
3.
You got it. Go. Okay, now, tell me, what is 12?
It is 14 inches, so it's a
Off
short
of
one.
where?
12A. It's off of the above.
Off the
14
yeah, off the
inches
top.
from the top.
Now, this is the top. Remember I said you're up, I'm down, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a measuring tape, and I'm going to measure down 14 inches, okay? And I'm going to lock this at 14 inches. Heck, just so we can see it properly, let's do it this way, okay? Now, I know that this is exactly the match that I need. Now, here's what I'm going to show you. We can slide now this pattern, okay, until we hit the pattern match, okay? Now, it is right there, right? Because it's the same as the front, the first sheet. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of little techniques here. This is going to make a big difference. We're going to measure down 14 inches. We set it here. Now, remember, We already added our 2 inches in, right? So there's our 12A. Now we need to turn over our carpenter's square and now cut this, and we mark it what?
Oh, wow. 12A.
12A, that's correct, okay? Very cool.
That's great.
Now you're starting to think like a wizard. Now you always mark, yep, upper top. Now what we're going to do over here, because I'm going to need your help over here, is I'm going to actually now cut the bottom. Now we leave that in place.
Okay.
Okay, because that's where we're going to mark it. That's where we're going to actually keep it in the sequence.
Oh,
and
all right.
remember, we keep it right in the match.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so we don't want to touch paper. Once it's cut, it's cut. Now, tell me from our instructions, what is the length of 12B?
12B is 46 inches.
Off the bottom, because it's B for bottom, right? Okay, so watch this. Now we're going to take and slide the pattern along. There's the match, right? Okay. You hold it down. I'm going to work over here, bring it down, and we've cut the pattern in alignment. Remember, we always stack it on the one previous. The only one that sticks out is number 1. Right, our master sheet. We now take the carpenter's square, we line it up, and we cut it.